It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks. Hey, welcome. This is Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1. Michael, throw your mic over.
Oh, go ahead. I got it. Keep
you
going.
Sure?
Yeah.
All right, this is FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The Answer.
Nice. You're dropping the ball out there. You're over there studying.
Off to yet another professional, well-polished start.
Yes, absolutely. I see we're studying, so you haven't read that yet.
No.
I had a funny feeling. Yeah. Hey, folks, if you have legal matters that involve firearms, then you need to call our attorney, John Dillon, especially if you have questions on red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation. Or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. That's John Dillon, specializes in California gun laws, 760-642-7150. Or just go to his website, DillonLawGP.com.
Or stay tuned. He's on the show today.
Fantastic.
It's about time.
What else you got planned for that boy? For the show.
Well, we got all kinds of cool. Of course, we got Joe. How you doing, Joe?
Doing great.
Did you have fun last week?
Yeah, I did have fun last week.
But
I had fun yesterday. I had fun pretty much every day.
You had to think about what you were doing last week.
Yeah, what were you doing?
Why is he asking me if I was having fun?
Did you do something fun? What did you do?
I did. I was in classes all weekend. I took a basic red dot class on Friday, which was fun.
With, what's his name?
Brian Hill. Yeah, the guy we had him on a couple of months ago. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I did a image-based decision drills instructor certification class with him as well, with Brian Hill.
So what did you think about the red dot class?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
Here's my big question. What's the difference between a red dot class and a regular class? Like, was it significantly like, oh, hey, this is eye-opening?
Yeah, for me, because
the red dot.
Because I just switched over to the red dot, 2 months ago or so, and it takes a little while to get used to it. And it's just a matter of coming up differently. You know, you'll see people that first start out with the red dot, they're coming up and they're fishing around for the dot, because their gun's not coming up in the same spot. And for me, it was interesting because I always thought, okay, I've got pretty good mechanics. My draw comes up to the same spot all the time. And then with the red dot, it's like, wow, where is this thing? And then somebody pointed out to me, well, yeah, but you got to come up to a slightly different position with the red dot because it's zeroed differently. So you have to kind of relearn that. So it's that kind of thing. It's learning how to get faster with it, transitioning from target to target and things like that. Following the target, not focusing on the sight, because with the iron sights, you're used to focusing on that front sight, whereas with the red dot, you're looking past the front sight to the target. And getting up the speed on that is a little bit differently, because you were talking earlier off air about about giving a new person a red dot and how their performance shot up drastically.
Yep.
Well, yeah, if you're standing at a line in a square range and you're just shooting at a target, well, yeah, it'll do that.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do that faster and you're trying to transition, the other thing with the red dot, too, is the bullet will go where the dot is when you pull the trigger. The thing is, if you still have bad habits, if you flinch, if you pull to the left, the red dot's not going to help. It'll actually show you what you're doing because you'll see the red dot zip over to the left just before your bullet goes that way. So it's there's a number of things to learn. We practiced more on some speed drills and things like that. So it was fun for me. Again, because I'm new to it. So hopefully I saved myself a couple of months of figuring this stuff out, through trial and error.
You gonna take the class again, maybe?
No, I don't think I would.
You think
because
you've absorbed enough?
Yeah, it's a matter of now understanding what I'm trying to do and now actually applying
it. Like before, you didn't
it.
have any idea.
Yeah, it was the unconscious incompetence. So
right.
I didn't know what I didn't know
there
before.
You go.
So now,
so you thought you were doing just fine.
Yeah, well, I was happy to hear him on the interview here on the radio. He said, 3 to 6 months to get comfortable with it. Because I was flailing after 2 months. So I'm thinking, okay, good. 3 to 6 months, I could live with that.
Yeah. Isn't that how normally you get lost and you say, I'm going to turn around, and it's always about a half a block from where you're supposed to turn right
Yeah,
or
not
left?
going to stop and ask.
Yeah, no, of course. No, you guys have.
And what'd you like? Well, tell us about the decision-making class.
That
what was
fun
that
too.
about?
The image-based decision class. What they're trying to do is the idea of if you were teaching that class is to teach people to make quick decisions or quick assessments of the situation, and then make a quick first decision on it of something to do. And it's interesting the way they first start out with it. He would throw. What they do is they give you. He's got a series of cards, and the cards have pictures on them. So
And this is the same dude, the
still
Brian,
Hill.
the red dot guy.
Yeah, it's I'm going to say Complete Combatant. Is that his company?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
yeah.
like that. Brian Hill's easier to remember.
Yeah.
But you have a series of cards. So there's a card with a picture of a gun, a picture of a flashlight, a picture of a telephone, and there's like 7 cards. And then what he did at first, he would just show a picture up on the screen. You'd see maybe a guy with a baseball bat and a threatening look or something. Mm-hmm. And then he said, okay, hold up a card. What would you do? And they started like that. And then that kind of progressed to breaking the class up into groups and having you walk up to a table and flip over a card now that had some kind of scene on it or situation. And you had like 5 seconds to look at it and then react. And it was interesting because they would, if the telephone was one of the things you picked up, they'd go through the 911 call, and someone would play the 911 operator and ask you, okay, what did you see? And it's interesting when you look at these cards, like with me, I'd look at it and how little I saw the first time. And then after I went through the swap, because they would ask, okay, what would the guy look like? Did he have a mustache? See this, that? I don't know. I looked at it, but I didn't really see it. So getting used to seeing that kind of stuff, and then talking about it, because there's not a one exact answer to each situation. It all depends. So if you do something, okay, why did we do it? Let's talk about it, and that's something that we talk about in class too when we teach the concealed carry stuff. Mm-hmm. It's it's the can you articulate, the CYA thing, and which I picked up from Masad Ayub's class. But, if you do something, can you explain why you did that? Is that, can you explain why that was the most reasonable thing to do? So it was a lot of that stuff. It was, and then how to teach that class, how to talk to the students. Okay, after you go through the drill with them, how to get that information out of them, what else they could have done and stuff. So it was fun. It was interesting.
It's cool. Now, what's the follow-up for that class? Or do you feel like you learned a bunch from it, or is there like a drill or something that comes with it, or is there a part 2 or follow-up material? Or
no, well, I know he's going to come out. We're going to have him out again next year, hopefully. Dave Reed wants to have him back out, maybe do a follow-up on that and some other stuff. I know from Bill and I, because Bill Deasy took the class with me as well, so we're going to see if we can incorporate some of that into the concealed carry classes. Nice. When I teach the situational awareness and the pepper spray class, I know I definitely want to use some of it in there. So
I mean, it is, because that's it's pretty common that people have. I'll be totally frank. People say dumb stuff. Like, well, if I were in that situation, I'd pull my gun or whatever. It's really, really, really rare. I mean, if you were to lay out, 100 scenarios, conflicts, let's say, in public with other people, it's rare, if ever. Do you pull a gun? It's so rare. And I think that's an important lesson for people to know, because, what's the one tool? If we have a CCW, what's the one tool you carry with you? Well, it's your firearm. And when you have, how does it go? When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And hopefully they're teaching you that, hey, and that sounds like that's exactly the point. Is they're teaching you that, just because you're carrying around a hammer doesn't mean everything's a nail.
Yeah, and we went through some of the pepper spray exercises, too, in the class, so it was good. But I think the real valuable thing is getting people to think about it ahead of time. Because if something happens, it's going to happen really fast. You may or may not be thinking. But at least if you've gone through this kind of stuff and you thought about, okay, what would I do? Yeah. And you play those what-if games when you're out in public and stuff like that, I think that's helpful to people. So if they're really in the situation, hopefully they'll think and they'll make the right decision or the right choice.
Well, cool. All right, we got Phil here. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great.
From ShoreShot? Excellent. Yeah. We're going to come back from the break, and we're going to do a couple segments and talk about ShoreShot Firearms Simulator in Oceanside. Right, and, of course, we have Action Jackson. How you doing, buddy?
good.
Fantastic. And we're going to talk to Action Jackson about the wheel he's carrying.
Yes, we are. Right here on Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The answer.
All right. Let's see if you can read this guy's name, because I'll ruin it.
Phil Hughey from ShoreShot Firearm Simulator in Oceanside is next.
All right. We can't wait to talk to Phil. Got a new name. Self-defense and emergencies can happen to anyone, and there's no guarantee that the justice system will be on your side. So you need to make sure you are protected by the legal battle after your self-defense battle. While you purchase your protect your family and property, U.S. Law Shield is here to defend you 24/7, 365 days a year with a comprehensive self-defense coverage at an affordable price. Bad guys don't take days off, and neither does our coverage. Hey, get this, you can get a free t-shirt. All you have to do is use Gun Owners Radio as their promo code. So sign up today. Go to uslawshield.com.
Now, Phil, is there another pronunciation of your last name that we could...
The other pronunciation is Hughey.
Hughey. All right. Let's go with that one. Okay. Awesome.
See,
awesome
that didn't
job.
look like Huey either. So you're okay, Jackson. No problem.
So you are the founder and owner of ShoreShot Firearms Simulator in Oceanside.
That's correct.
Talk about ShoreShot.
Well, ShoreShot actually came to me in my mind years ago. Kind of had an idea about what can I do to give people a little bit more training for the ones that can't go to the range or not prepared to go to the range.
Right.
So Simulator came about, just came out about the right time. Place opened up next door, and I wanted a place where people could come in, shoot, at an inexpensive way, but also learn the correct way to shoot.
And I'm assuming not have to buy their own simulator.
Not have to buy their own simulator, correct?
And that's where the money
that's
is.
That's where it is right there. Save on the ammo, get out of the intimidation of shooting if it's the first time.
And have you ever done a simulator?
I have done a couple different kinds. Yeah.
Have you done any simulators?
Yeah, but like submarine control rooms.
Well,
and stuff.
it doesn't make any
shooting
difference.
Simulator I haven't done.
But because when you do a simulator,
right,
it's like unbelievable. You get into it like I've done it many a time, and I'll tell you, it's that technology, and I can see where it worked perfect for your company.
Yeah, I call it more of immersive because you get involved in it. You get people to say, "Wow, I feel the sweat, my heartbeat speeding," because we can give you simulations like you were talking about before. The what ifs.
So talk. What exactly? I mean, simulator can mean a lot of things. So describe like what exactly people experience.
Okay. So when we take them through there, we first take them through the regular shooting range. Regular target, sight alignment, sight picture. It's usually with the one simulator that does a recoil, kind of get you used to it. Then we give them the actual firearms, actual Glock 17s and 22s that recoil just like you're shooting at the range, so they can experience that first time shooting at the range. Then we go one step further. We say, now we want you to use your critical thinking, and we actually give them shoot, no shoot situations, like 3 targets show up, 1 bad guy. Others have cell phones, like you were talking about before. Do I shoot or not shoot?
Wow. And this is on like a giant screen. It's like a big TV screen looking thing kind of thing?
Real similar to the screen. And we can actually even put it in a 360 where they have to watch everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Sounds like a road trip.
Yeah. To Oceanside.
Well, because it's hard to explain it, you know. What we should have done is we should have went and done it and then come back. So he's good. Now you've got a second show.
We can still do that.
There you go.
Yeah, see, he's got a second show. He's got a follow. I like the way you roll. Yeah.
So, but the firearms are indistinguishable. I mean, basically, you're shooting like a Glock 17. But it's got recoil and everything, right?
Yeah. So what we do is you got Glock 17, 22s, the ARs, and the shotgun. Actually, put what they call a recoil kit in there, so you're going to get the same kick that you actually do at the range, the exact same feel and everything, and you can simulate short distance, long distance. And the thing I like about it is you get a chance to move around, just like if it was real life, instead of being stuck in one place and everything.
Wow.
So,
And you don't have to worry about range safety.
no, we still.
But I'd be just saying, I mean, you're not going to get shot. You know?
No.
So-
That's the good thing. That we could actually do a little bit more as far as the teaching, because it's a little bit safer to do so.
Wouldn't you think that takes a little bit of the fear out of a first-time shooter?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, everybody goes shooting for their very first time. The first thing they're afraid of is going to get hurt.
Exactly.
And you take that completely away.
Oh, yeah.
Is that now? Is that your target audience? Do you, is it marksmanship, or is it more of situational information? You know what I mean? Or is it more for new shooters, or intermediate, or advanced, or what type of knowledge are you looking for people to walk away with?
Exactly. We do the new shooters, because so many people have a misunderstanding about how to shoot, when to shoot, and then just that phobia of going to the range. So we introduce that to them. But then you have the ones that, hey, I shoot, but I want to take that one step further to get that much better. And then we even have some advanced classes that we teach for those ones that, hey, I'm an expert shooter, I want to go a little bit further, but I can't go to other places, and I can give them the exact same thing.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep.
That's very awesome. Now, what's your background? How did you get into this?
Started Marine Corps, 21 years Marine Corps, retired.
What'd you do for the Marine Corps?
Well, believe it or not, aviation electronics, and I went down to the infantry level. My last 8 years, I was the range chief over at Edson Range, for 91 and 94, and then I did all the PMO weapons training and firearms training.
What's PMO?
That's the MPs, military police at Camp Pendleton.
I would have thought he was a drill sergeant.
I dealt with the recruits a little bit.
If he doesn't look like a drill sergeant,
He kind of has that air about him, doesn't he?
I have had too many of them, man. I remember, but
that kind of, you don't mess with him. He's
Exactly.
he's strictly business, but he also cares about you. He
And
kind of has that,
and for some reason, they all smile a lot. And that's a scary situation. Let me tell you,
take it away.
that smile will get you every time. Well, that is such an interesting. Okay, I'm sure you got more questions.
Well, I was going to say,
than I got.
so Marines. What did you do after the Marine Corps?
After the Marine Corps,
after you got out,
I took over the Security Academy, an airport security academy. Got into training. I was doing a lot of training with a lot of law enforcement. Also, with the San Diego Sheriff Department, developed their initially back in the days MP5 SWAT program, and then LAPD, FBI, all of them. But then my concentration is I wanted to train civilian personnel on the security, kind of similar to law enforcement. So I took over an airport in 1998 and been running that ever since, and training the security personnel just as well.
wow, that's cool.
You're still doing that today?
Yep, still doing that today. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So now so this is kind of a side gig?
Right. This one's extended from that from the airport side, and wanted civilians to know that we had the same opportunity to train them, so they could have something to do.
So what's the benefit if Joe goes down? Because Joe's a professional shooter. He
Right.
competes. He takes more classes than you do. What would be the benefit for him to come and take your experience?
It's always going to end up fine-tuning those skills, the what-ifs like he was talking about right there. We have over 1,000 scenarios with 5 different variations. So basically we have 5,000 scenarios.
Wow.
Where he would go through one, and the guy would shoot. And then Mike would go through the same scenario, and we've had people anticipate that the guy's going to shoot. And then they're prepared, but the guy walks away. So it prepares.
They saw the guy in the video from the time before, and they're like, "Oh, that guy's
I got this guy."
Yeah,
Right.
I know this guy's deal."
Right.
So, but he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
So the instructors can vary the reactions on there.
Oh, yeah.
And wow, that's a
Yeah, if you walk in with an attitude, you
Oh,
are not going to get out of this class.
and there's a tendency to try to game it. Okay, I saw this.
That's
I know what
that's
you gotta do.
that's the guy
that
you got to watch for.
anticipation that we always talk about. Don't anticipate, be observant, and be prepared.
Yeah, you can end up shooting somebody, and that wasn't the way. Ooh,
Right.
scary.
So now how does it work? As far as, do you have group classes, or all individual, or how does all that work?
We do individuals. Some people feel more comfortable individually because their first time. We have a family that now their whole family's getting ready to go through. So it's 5 members. So they're coming through. They're going to do basically we have a 4 or 5 hour session where we get them step by step, even firing the simulator. And the last part, we take them to the range as well.
And shoot real bullets?
And shoot real bullets. So this makes it comfortable from them starting from nothing, the one that don't recoil, to the ones that recoil, and then having those time on the range simulated scenarios, and then take them to the range to have.
Because if
that
you don't
experience.
take them to the range, then they don't know. I mean, they'll probably never go to the range.
Right. And we get people, they come back monthly, weekly, and then they actually start going to the range on a regular basis.
So I have to throw
comfortable.
I have to throw competition in here because
Okay,
that's
go
what
for it.
Mike mentioned it. Tell me you don't have a group of shooters that compete to see who the best simulator shoots.
Oh, we have
It's like a big video game.
Oh, yeah, it's always a competition between the guys talking and
See?
all different regular steel targets, time targets,
Yeah.
you name it, they got it.
Yeah. Wow.
How many simulators are there? How many guns do you have, I guess?
We actually have total guns, about 12 guns.
Okay, so you could have like a
Up to 12.
you could have like a group class, or you could have a group
class and
competition.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
All
Phil,
right.
do
Well,
those
let's
things,
just go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sorry. No, do those things vary? Like, can you do a 1 hour session, a 2 hour session, a 5 hour session?
Yeah.
Do you kind of tailor it to what people want, or do you guys have set things that you do?
Oh, no, it's always tailored to the individual. We have some classes that are, set for a certain way for a
Right.
group. And then we have the ones that want to be, hey, I could take an hour here, 2 hours there, or I want the whole for 4 or 5 hours.
And do you have like different groups of scenario? Like, is there a home defense scenario?
yes.
Is there an out on the street group of scenarios? What kind of stuff do you guys have?
Okay. We even have it to where it's like somebody breaks into the house. What should they do? In the situations, okay, normally we teach them, hey, stay in a place, call 911, but sometimes you have to go check. Like, I love the scenario you talked about. There's people in the house. It's your family's in the house, but I have to go in, the door's open. We have scenarios like that. Mm-hmm. We have it to where you're walking on the street and somebody comes up to you and they want their money. We have one, we always call it the ATM, situations of that aspect, or even attempted carjacking.
It's interesting. One of the cards that we had in the image-based defense thing was walk away.
Yes.
Sometimes
yes.
walk away is the answer.
Yes.
Want. You don't have to do anything.
That's the biggest thing that we tell people. You don't have to initiate any contact. Just walk away.
Wow.
Great distance.
I was just watching a video. What's that? He's a local guy. He's a SEAL, big jawed guy. What's that guy's name? Oh man,
Narrow it down.
I know, right? Yeah, Jocko. He was talking about that. He was saying, hey, he was basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically saying, look, I'm one of the most dangerous people in the world, but I don't. If somebody's going to pick a fight or mess with me, I walk away. I'll run away if I have to. You don't want to. Nobody wants to get. If you really, really, truly, he was making this is, again. I'm paraphrasing his words, but if you really, truly understand violence and have experienced it, number one, you don't want to be a part of it. And number two, your involvement in it doesn't make you any more or less of a person or a man.
Well, and even for somebody like him with that level of skill, there's still a million ways that can go sideways and not go the way he wants it to go.
It's exactly what he said. Exactly what he said, and I think it's an important lesson for people to learn. I think. Anyway, so let's keep talking about the simulator. I'm really, really excited about it.
Kind of like a race car driver that drives the speed limit on the roads, but not on the track. Really? We come right down to it. By the way, that's Action Jackson, folks. He's getting ready to go NASCAR driving. Got his own car, brought a steering wheel in. Brittany gave him some really good pointers so as not how to break your thumb. We're going to talk more about him later on. But right now, does selling your home feel overwhelming? Well, it doesn't have to be. Just call Scott Vinson from Coldwell Banker Royal Realty. That's Scott Vinson, Vinson, and he is a perfect guide to help you sell or buy your home. Scott has also been a San Diego County gun owner board member from the start. So if you're moving, let fellow Second Amendment supporter and real estate broker Scott Vinson help you sell your home and find you a new home anywhere in the U.S. You can call him today at 619-948-2459. Just tell him you heard it all about it on Gun Owners Radio. Again, Scott at 619-948-2459. You can get him online at scottvinson.com. All right, back to simulators.
Back to Phil with ShoreShot. Now, is your theme song the Beastie Boys song? ShoreShot?
Oh, my goodness.
We had thought about it, but it's
really? Okay, I was going to say I can't be the first one to suggest that, right?
There you go.
That's cool. So, what now? Do you have like a whole staff, or how does all that work? Tell us a little bit more about the nuts and bolts.
Okay. Well, the staff is I have probably about 5 regular people, and I have Clay. He's kind of my first-hand man and everything like that. He's been with me with the Nampor for a while, taught him. He's just really into shooting and everything like that, and he's good to go. Then I have Travis and Reed, both retired Marines, so they're actually getting into it. Reed's one of my front-runner trainers. He's got every certification as far as training as well. He just loves teaching people.
Nice.
And then we have our new person is Elena. She's a lady in the house, but she's a shot. She knows what she's doing.
She runs the joint.
Yeah, I always tell the ladies right there. More like says, Janet's my manager. She makes it easier for me to be here.
And it sounds like we're gonna set up a seminar on how to get your CCW, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, look forward to that. So look out for dates that San Diego County Gun Owners comes in and partners with ShoreShot to teach folks how to get your CCW in San Diego, which is that something that do you work with a lot of CCW holders? Is that something you encourage?
Oh, absolutely. We actually are one of the vendors for San Diego, so we've been teaching the CCW class, I think, 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
And I support people that get that CCW. They can have it and everything like that. And I always refer them to San Diego Gun Owners Association, and we've been doing a class ourselves just to let them know how to get that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So you've been teaching CCW folks how to the official class, like the 8 hours,
official 8
for 20 years.
Correct.
So talk a little bit about what was it like 20 years ago compared to what it's like today. It's like to get the CCW. I mean,
well, I would actually say to get it, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that's what San Diego Gun Owners Association has made it so much easier, and I let people know that right there.
See, I was just fishing for a compliment there, Dave. That's all.
You did it. I would have never got
That's
that.
not what I exactly.
Yes, you were.
All right.
You kept putting the cardboard up and said,
Yeah.
say it, see you.
He kept saying, "Say my name."
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He does it a lot.
It's easier, but
Yes.
it was. I feels like the whole it feels like. Here's really what I'm asking.
Yes.
It truly someone that's been there for 20 years,
Yes.
carrying and teaching, and
Correct.
It feels like a cultural change has happened in
Yes.
San Diego.
Yes,
it feels like it used to be this kind of taboo secret, and now it's going mainstream, right?
Yes, it is.
Have you noticed the difference in your students, in the last couple of years compared to 15, 20 years ago?
It absolutely. It's the students, like I said, just the ones that are taking the class, the ones that are open to do it, the ones that say, "Hey, I never thought I would want to get a CCW, but I'm more open to it, and I could see a reason for it." It's just a lot more to it.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's someone that's been carrying and teaching for decades? What's your best advice?
My best advice is right there. One, apply and train. Always constantly just train to actually utilize it in the way that you're going to carry it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I see right there is I get people, because we have it for, that 2 years. And I say, what have you been doing to actually keep your skills up? Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, I went to the range. I said, when? I said, no, you have to train. It's just like driving a car. If you drive a car, you park it in the garage and then bring it out a year later, you're not going to drive so well. Mm-hmm. So you have to go out there, even if it's just, in-home drive practice and everything else, and what you got to do is safely, of course.
And, even if within training, I've found my humble opinion is if you just go and stand in a lane and put 50 holes in a piece of paper, don't get me wrong, that's valuable. You got to do that.
Yes.
But if that's all you're doing, it's like shooting free throws and then trying to win an NBA championship.
Right.
Doing nothing but shooting free throws.
Right.
You got to pull from concealment.
Yes.
You got to go through scenarios. That knowledge, I feel, is severely lacking. I mean, working on your marksmanship in a lane is important, sure, but there's so much more to it. Once you get that card, once you get that CCW, there's a whole other skill set that comes along. You really got to get familiar with.
And I think that's one of the things that why we did this, we wanted to have somebody, a safe place where they could come here, because when we even teach with their firearms that we don't shoot on the simulator, we say, hey, let's practice here. How do you carry? What position you carry? Let's practice coming from that position. And also, let's talk about movement. I created this one thing, I call it booth syndrome. And they look at me and they say, what's that? I said, when you go to a normal range, you're stuck in a booth. They don't let you move left and right. I said, in real life, you're going to have to move left and right, draw from the weapon, maybe possibly even kneel. So we want to teach people, the things that may or may not happen, the what ifs.
Interesting.
Yes.
What do you recommend as far as carrying? If someone asks, like, hey, how should I carry this, or what holster, whatever, what do you have a preference?
I always tell everybody it's kind of like driving a car. You have to go by what's comfortable for you, but also I tell people, I said, what's secure, where you can draw and secure that weapon. Certain ways, sometimes I hesitate on saying what I don't like on one particular one, because somebody might be around and say, oh, I can't believe you said that. But I say carry it the way that, one, you can secure that weapon. You can do the protection of that weapon so nobody else can get to it at that point. But you should be able to have that weapon in different ways. Sometimes I carry it on my left. Sometimes I carry it on my right. Sometimes, I carry it, different ways. But I practice that each and every time.
I just carry Action Jackson on my shoulders at all times, and he protects me if I ever need it. The guy's such a good shot. But
I was going to see if I could borrow him for protection, too.
There you go. Yeah, right?
You ought to run him through the simulator system.
Oh, yeah. He's invited. He's invited.
Because if we run him through the simulator, he can give a really interesting perspective.
Yes.
Because I would think if he was my son and he was into guns, that's the first class I'd send him to.
Exactly.
Because I don't have to worry about him. He doesn't have to worry about pressure, and I've got good trainers.
Yep.
And how many different scenarios? 5,000?
Yeah.
So you can handpick whatever you want.
Exactly.
I think it's perfect for kids.
Fun shooting, too. It concentrates on marksmanship.
How much are the bullets?
Bullets, let's put it this way. For $30, you get 400 shots.
It's a little cheaper than 9mm.
Oh, that's a lot cheaper. Well, so now that you bring that up,
Right.
is that basically how the consumer would pay, is by how many shots they're going to take?
No, it's you do it by the time, 30, 40 minutes, and it's, let's say 30, 40 minutes for two people, it's $50.
Wow.
That's with the ones that don't recoil, just kind of good marksmanship. But if you wanted to add the one that recoil, the 400 shots, it's additional 30. So basically, you're looking at $80.
Okay.
Shoot as much as you want as our training weapons. We say that boom, 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 get your fingers tired, and then 400 rounds of actual shooting.
So let me ask you, I bet you got a club. And you got like discounts if you belong to certain levels now.
Oh, yeah.
See, I knew that.
We got the membership.
Well, because if you got a guy that shoots on a regular basis, he might want to be at the higher level.
Exactly.
To get them, especially if they clean your guns.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you meant like a large piece of wood that someone would beat someone with.
You would think that. You would think that.
It's like you don't need a simulator for that.
Well, as much as you like cleaning your guns in the sink, this is a great program for you.
I stand by the Schwartz technique of cleaning a Glock.
Can you believe that? Literally, what do you slobber it with?
I slobber it with Seal 1 and scrub it down, and then I just put it under scalding hot water in the sink, and it comes out perfect.
Come on, Gunny. What do you think? Is he on the right track?
Well, I'm not going to say
how many push-ups would he be doing? How many push-ups would he be doing right now if you caught him doing that?
20 plus.
There you go. He can do them. Don't let him kid you.
Well, that's cool. So what do you? I mean, if you're listening right now and you are an experienced shooter, and this sounded interesting, because I would assume that most folks listening right now are fairly experienced and have had some level of training. What would they express to you, to work on? I guess if they call up and say, "Hey, I want to come down."
Right.
What are they asking for?
Most of them
you want to come down and do a 1-hour class, or I want to come down and do a specific drill, or what do you think they'd ask for?
A lot of them want to just come in and say, okay, hey, I'm experienced, but now I want to do a little bit. Most of the time it's just different scenarios, moving targets, because they don't get that chance to shoot at moving targets. Then we got it to where you got moving targets because you got to change a little bit with your sighting when it's a moving target and so forth, so they can practice that. So if they ever come across that situation.
It's harder when the targets are moving away from you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well.
Running.
And we tell them, don't shoot the ones running away unless they're a threat.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a website?
Yes, absolutely.
Let me guess. www.shoreshot.com?
For some reason, somebody like me made it too long. ShoreShot Firearm Simulator.com.
Oh, that's just too long.
ShoreShot
I'm an old
Firearm
guy.
Simulator.com.
That's right.
Well, and I think people should at least go there and peruse through the site.
Yeah.
Answers pretty much any and all questions that you might have.
Oh, absolutely.
And the ones you don't, I think there's a contact button that you can reach out and get those questions answered.
We give free to anybody that comes down there at no cost. You get a demonstration free. It takes about 10 minutes. You get a chance to shoot, and different scenarios. So we can introduce. Like I said, you can't tell anybody about it.
No, you can't.
And they get pleasantly surprised, even the experience and everything else.
I highly recommend that for anybody that's questioning whether this is worth trying. I would definitely do that. What are you doing?
Are you guys open every day, or what's your schedule normally?
We're open. We make appointments anytime. You can make an appointment anytime. We've had appointments
what
up
about
late
walk-ins?
as 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. because that's when they were available.
What about walk-ins?
Walk-ins, we usually are on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Okay.
We open up around 2 o'clock up until 9 on Saturdays and Sundays. We open at 10.
In the morning?
In the morning.
So Thursday through Sunday, you're open to the general public, and then by appointment.
Yeah,
anytime.
by appointment Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. About the times 10 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
Gotcha.
That's cool, man. I think we're going to go up there. Dave, what do you say, man?
I think because like I said, we're asking a billion questions, and he's thinking in his head, if you just come up and try
Just
it.
let me just show you.
I don't even have to talk.
What are you
this.
driving this week, Dave?
I'm driving a Hyundai Venue, and I thought of you.
All right, then maybe we'll come up next week. See what you're driving next week.
I think I'm getting a Ram 35. All right,
there you go.
Oh, you want me in a gas guzzler? That's what you want. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Joe Germisi has got a gear review coming up, so don't touch that dial right here on FM 96.1.
So the Republican Party is really just the second worst political party. So stay tuned for Michael's explanation on why that is.
And what could be the first? Hey, folks, most companies waste a lot of money on marketing. And the reason why is because they don't have a clear message. So if you're wasting money on your website, your social media, or your advertising, you don't have a clear, easy to understand message, well, then you need to go to Sage Tree. They totally get it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies clarify their message and connect with customers. Contact them today and learn about the proven system to help you and get better return on your investment from your marketing dollars. Go to sagetree.com and learn a whole lot more.
So tomorrow night, the Republican Party they're going to make a vote to endorse a big group of people. They're running for office here in San Diego. Now, this is the local Republican Party that just in San Diego. And
did you get invited?
No, and I'll tell you why. The Republican Party is run by like 40, 50 people that are actually elected, called the Central Committee. And the Central Committee is your neighbors. They're your neighbors. They run for Central Committee, and you actually vote. They're way, 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 way down at the bottom of the ballot, but you actually vote for your Central Committee if you're a registered Republican. If you're not a registered Republican, then you don't vote for the Republican Central Committee. If you're a registered Democrat, you might vote for their Central Committee. But most political parties, the two majors, of course, have a Central Committee, and that's who actually makes the decisions on the party. Who do they endorse? That sort of thing. So if you have more than one Republican running, they'll actually choose, they help organize volunteers, and they help raise money and that sort of thing. But that's who's actually running the Republican Party. Now, if you were listening a few weeks ago, you heard me interview a guy who is running for sheriff named John Hemmerling, and it was not a good interview. It didn't go well for John. John is works for the city attorney down in San Diego, and he is in charge of spreading the gun violence restraining order program. Gun violence restraining orders are horrible. Now, in all fairness, a lot of the examples they give on when they issued a gun violence restraining order, it's taking a firearm away from someone who's committing a crime. The thing is, you don't need a gun violence restraining order to do that. What they're doing is they're making gun violence restraining orders they're making it common practice. They're, just standard practice to issue a gun violence restraining order, whether or not it's needed. So they're making it look like, hey, these gun violence restraining orders, not so bad. The problem is there are a number of situations where they're taking guns away from people that haven't committed a crime, and the whole idea of a gun violence restraining order is it's supposed to be a red flag law. And what a red flag law means is they're actually trying to predict whether or not, someone's going to become a criminal. They've raised a red flag, and therefore they want to try to, take rights away from them before they've actually abused their freedom and liberty. So that's the intent of a red flag law. A gun violence restraining order is a type of red flag law, but they've taken these gun violence restraining order and they're making them mainstream. They're basically using them whenever a firearm's involved. They issue a gun violence restraining order. Never was the intent. And they're of course wide open to abuse. They flip due process on their head. And John Hemmerling is not just a fan, but he is a disciple of these gun violence restraining orders. He's actually been spreading them to other departments, going throughout the state, going throughout the county, and making sure that other departments are implementing these gun violence restraining orders. And when we talked to him, he didn't back off of it at all. He said, "Hey, they're good for gun owners." Was his, I believe, his exact quote. This guy's not your friend if you're a gun owner. He's not, and he's running for sheriff. He's running for sheriff as a Republican, and I thought that in forming the Central Committee, would be enough. They'd hear the interview and say, hey, yeah, all right, yeah, this guy really isn't our friend. We're not going to endorse him. Because the Republican Party makes a lot of noise about being pro-Second Amendment. And I would say that if you ask 100 people, which party between the Democrats and Republicans, which one's better on guns, 99 of them are going to say Republicans, I'd guess. They definitely make that claim. So you would think, and by the way, the Central Committee, many of them are San Diego County gun owners members. Many of them participate, support us, and love us. And and where we agree, where the circles overlap, it's been a really great relationship. If we agree on an endorsement, not much is going to be able to stop us from getting that person endorsed, with the Republican Party and San Diego County gun owners both putting in their the time and the effort and the money and everything to get them elected. Well, unfortunately, there's a subset of this committee called the Executive Committee that decides who the Central Committee gets to vote on. And they ramrodded John Hemmerling through so that the Central Committee really doesn't even get to discuss whether or not they should endorse him. And when I say they, it's really down to two people. A guy named Tony Kovarik, who was the chairperson, and their brand new chairperson, Paula Witzel. And for whatever reason, and Tony, didn't have to do it this way, but he did. He didn't have to do it this way, and really sent the message that, hey, screw San Diego County gun owners, forget your guns. I don't really care. And you have to understand, when we criticize the Republican Party, and we criticize any party, they're a single issue. You have to understand, there's a lot of people at the top especially. They're really, truly a single issue organization. And that issue is the letter R. And they will always sell your gun rights down the river in order to advance that R. And that's exactly what is happening. That's exactly. So all the lip service and all the hot air and, hey, gee golly, look at us, and we show up at your events, we show up at your dinners, and rah, rah, rah. That's all great, except when it's better for them to advance that R rather than advance your Second Amendment rights. Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Now, there are a lot of committed people on the Central Committee right now that are working on trying to pull him off this list so that he can be discussed and hopefully not endorsed. Because Tony Kovarik has shoved, it's an enormous wedge between San Diego County gun owners and the Republican Party, an enormous wedge between the Republican Party and gun owners in general.
Wow.
And it's absolutely destroyed relationships and trust and, bridges that have been built over years. And unfortunately, the current chair, Paula Witzel, it did absolutely nothing, just rolled right over. They weren't. We had the votes in the executive committee to just simply pull him off this list so that it could be discussed, so they could make an educated decision, or at the very least, so they could send the message, hey, look, John Hemmerling, this issue is important to us. Whether or not we endorse you, this issue is important to us, and that message is gone. That message is completely
no way pulling this out.
Now, yeah, there is a way. We're working on it, but it's a long shot. Now it's an extremely long shot. And I will tell you this: I'm very, very proud of the fact that while this whole fight was happening, even before we got shafted by the Republican Party, and make no mistake, that's exactly what happened. If you're a gun owner, if you're someone that cares about the Second Amendment, Tony Kovarik, the Republican Party, local Republican Party, last week rolled right over you. Sent the message they do not care about your Second Amendment rights. Now, hopefully, many people, that are also part of the leadership will reverse that tomorrow night. We're gonna have to wait and see. But while all that was happening, I had a series of conversations with John Hemmerling, and he actually produced a statement saying, hey, you know what? We got off on the wrong foot. Mike is right on the fact that this could possibly be abused. He offered to set up a citizens oversight committee that included someone from San Diego County gun owners if he's elected sheriff. He said he was going to try to work with the legislature to protect gun owners. He said he was not going to spread gun violence restraining orders. That's all great, and I'm really happy that we did that we got that assurance from him, but he's a candidate, man. He's running for office. That email is not worth the paper it was written on. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Well, unless he proves it.
Unless he proves it, you're exactly right. But that's the kind of thing that the Republican Party could have gotten. They could have gotten assurances from him had they allowed a discussion. But Tony Kovarik and Paula Witzel said no, they're not going to do that. They didn't even allow the discussion. So they can't even get that level. So as crucial as this this statement we got from him is, and it's public, he published it. It's not just his word on the phone or whatever. It's in writing. It's published and it's public. As important as that is, they even they took a lot of the steam out of that. A lot of that doesn't matter because they just shoved them through. So what I'm saying is, do not vote for anyone coming up that you cannot verify has the endorsement of a pro-gun organization like San Diego County Gun Owners or NRA or CRPA or somebody. Ignore the Republican voter guide because it is
they can use your guide.
Use our guide, but we don't include every single office, every single person. So don't look at the Republican voter guide because there are a lot of anti-gun folks on that list. They don't care about your Second Amendment rights.
When in doubt, don't.
And stay tuned. Listen to us this week. We'll let you know what the Republican Party decides. Know this, there are a lot of great people that are working hard, but unfortunately there are a lot of people that just don't care about your rights that are making decisions at the Republican Party here in San Diego.
And that was a mic drop. Just a tad early.
A little bit long.
Mic drop.
Well, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
I guess it was.
Yes, it was. It was a very good
one. It was
fact.
really sad. Really, truly sad. I mean, they really, truly, like I said, we've been building bridges and working and building partnerships, and they just destroyed them overnight.
They're rebuildable. You can get those things built back. You're not doing nothing else.
Well, they are theirs to build because we're going to continue to stick by our principles.
Sure, absolutely.
So the second they decide that they're going to do the same, then maybe we'll talk to them. Joe Dramisi to talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing. But first,
hey, are you in the military looking for help for refi a VA loan? Well, if you're looking to buy or refi, you need to consider our guy, Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. Give Chris a call, 619-722-1303 or primeres.com/Alpine. I was actually putting Hot Rod here in a driving suit.
Oh, I thought you were filling out your
your
voter ballot already after that last segment.
No, I'm never doing that again.
You're never voting again?
Nope, I'm done with it.
You got to vote for our candidates though.
Well, that'd be the only one I'll vote for.
There you go. All right, get a grip with Joe Dramisi, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Know your local candidates.
All right, but wait, there's more. This is kind of it is related to what we just talked about in the last segment with the John Hemmerling thing, and his candidacy isn't really the focus of this, but I use it as an example for this kind of stuff because this knowing who you're voting for is particularly important, especially in local elections. You don't see that so much, with state elections or federal elections. You pretty much know about the candidates. They're covered very widely by the media. There's lots of information out there. Pretty much you can find out what you need to find out there. But for local candidates, things like sheriff, school board members, water board members, that kind of stuff. A lot of times when people vote for this, and I've done this myself, and in fact, I didn't really get more wised up to it till I got involved with San Diego County Gun Owners. But a lot of times, I have no idea who this person is, this local person, and I would look at, okay, who's endorsing them? It's the Republican Party. Okay, cool, I'll vote for them. And I think a lot of people do that, and like we were just talking about on the last segment, you can get in trouble by doing it that way. And again, this is just a great example of what's happening locally here with the sheriff's election and this John Hemmerling endorsement. And, just because the part, you would think, okay, the Republican Party endorses it, that then the person more or less stands for the things that, that I think are important, assuming I'm a Republican. Democrats would probably do the same thing, voting for people endorsed by the Democratic Party. But you can have, you can cause lots of problems by getting the wrong people elected locally. If you ask the people in Loudoun County, Virginia, what can happen if you get a bad school board elected. And we see that all around the country, and you see it here. And this thing, especially with the John Hemmerling thing, is a great example of that. Because you would think, okay, if the Republican Party endorses them, then, chances are, okay, must be pro-gun then, pro-Second Amendment, more, conservative values and stuff. But like we found out on the interview last week, with him. That's not really the case. And there were some things that were just interesting. Like in the course of the interview, for instance, Hemmerling said he was a 30-year Marine Corps veteran and a former law enforcement. And I remember thinking when I was listening to that, okay, was he like a 50-year-old rookie or something? And then when you look into it, it's, well, yeah, he's a 30-year Marine Corps veteran, but 22 of it is reserve, is a reservist. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a big difference between 30 years active duty, I would think, and, 22 years as a reservist. And not that that's bad, but it's a little bit disingenuous.
It questions whether or not you should trust them.
Well, that was my thing when I heard about that. And the other thing with the, I'm former military, I'm former police, therefore I must be a Second Amendment supporter. And he stated he's a Second Amendment supporter, he believes in that, talked a lot about the concealed carry stuff. But then it comes out in the interview that not only is he an advocate, or not only does he believe in the gun violence restraining orders, but he's an advocate of those things, actually goes to other jurisdictions around California and helps them set up their programs to do that. And I believe in San Diego, I think we've used that more than any other county. Is that right?
Yep.
In California. And like you're saying, that kind of thing is ripe for abuse. And it's... if you can't say both of those things. It was a little bit like a few weeks ago when we were talking about, okay, can you be generally left-leaning and support Democratic candidates, but then in the same breath say you support the Second Amendment? And it's kind of hard to do that just because those people actively, work against that. And it's the same thing with Hemmerling's thing. Can you really support gun violence restraining orders to the point where you actually advocate for them and you show other people how to use them? And how to set up their programs. You show other jurisdictions how to do that. And then, right along those lines, say that you believe in the Second Amendment and people's right to, to keep and bear arms. And so I think it's important, and that was the gist of the article, the wolf in sheep's clothing. It's important to take the time to learn about candidates like that. And you can't, with the local candidate, that's important, be it school board members or anything locally. You don't want to just take a look at, okay, who's endorsing. That might be one thing that you look at, but take the time to explore and find out, okay, what's this person really stand for? Have they been in office? Because, again, in Hemmerling's case, just using him as an example, he's the assistant city attorney, I believe, in San Diego. The head, what do you call it, the head city attorney in San Diego?
The city attorney.
Is very much anti-gun. And, it's a very hostile environment, I guess, if you're a gun owner. They've passed a number of things lately with the city council. And this city attorney, even though it's not particularly her job to get involved in those things, seems to be a big advocate of gun control things and very anti, Second Amendment. And you can't really be the number two person if the number two person can't say they support the Second Amendment, if the number one person that they work for is such a strong anti-Second Amendment person, it just doesn't work that way.
Well, both of them have given speeches at like Brady organization rallies. There's no way, if you're supporting a policy, it's not like you're ignorant. It's not like you went, oh, gee. I mean, the NRA isn't inviting you.
What am I doing here?
And that was the other thing, too. When we were talking in the last segment, you talked about the Republican Party a little bit. And I was telling you, off air, we were talking, and, I talked with one person who's a Central Committee member and has been a long time, Republican and very involved in the party. And, he was kind of upset that we were upset that they were considering endorsing this guy. And, my question to him is, well, why do you have to endorse anybody? I mean, why do you have to endorse a bad candidate as opposed to just not endorsing in that particular office? And the response was, well, we have to have a horse in the race there. We have to have somebody. And it's like, okay, you're going to endorse somebody that is bad, that a lot of your constituents and the people you say, the party represents probably would not be happy with, just so you could say, you have a Republican in the race that you're endorsing. And that gets back to what you were just saying. R seems to be the big issue.
Yeah, it is the... one of the things that I'm not a fan of either party, Democrats, Republicans. I'm not a fan of Libertarian. I can't think of a party I'm a fan of. They're really all kind of sick, ridiculous. But one thing that Democrats do, that the Democrat Party does better than the Republicans, is they enforce their platform. They stand for something. The Republicans refuse to do that. It's all mouth or lip service.
Yeah, and I cannot defend that.
And
You're
they
true.
They
That's
can't.
true.
That's why we have to have somebody in the race. No, you don't. If what people expect you to do is enforce your platform and stand for the things that you claim to stand for.
Well, see, and that was exactly my argument with that, because when you endorse somebody that really doesn't represent what you say you stand for, then that message is what you're sending out. And I think that's why, or one of the reasons, and I said this, that's why you're a super minority. That's how you're going to be for a long time, because people pick up on that.
Yeah. You go get him, Tiger. You drive as well as you growl. You're going to just... Got to turn the page. All right, get it with accurate. Oh, it's for Mike.
All right, so what do you do if you're hit with a gun violence restraining order? John Dillon is in the studio to talk about it.
But first, clean lube and protect your gun faster and easier with Seal 1. Seal 1 CLP Plus is all natural, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly. And are you tired of smelling like a gas station after cleaning your gun? Try Seal 1. Ask for it by name at your local gun shop. If they don't have it, tell them to get it. Clean your guns faster and better with Seal 1. Oh my gosh, John Dillon is in the house. Holy moly. Founder of the Dillon Law Group. And what happiness are you going to talk about tonight?
Oh, it's the same old. It's always depressing. But
I always go home angry, but that's okay. You go for it.
You should go home angry on this subject, because I'm going to continue that discussion on gun violence restraining orders. And if we have time, 5150 health and welfare check stuff. But, gun violence restraining orders, or GVROs, that's the topic of today's discussion, I'd say. I didn't know you were going to be talking about the
Hammerling and
Hammerling and him wanting to rule the roost when it comes to GVROs. And the problem here is there's nothing good about a GVRO. It's
and
literally
that's gun
trying
violence restraining order.
Gun
so
violence
instead of having
restraining
to say all that,
yeah.
okay, good.
I'm a lawyer, so we got to shorten everything.
I know, we got to stay on top of you.
But these GVROs, it's quite literally the Minority Report. We're trying to stop crime before it happens, and we do that based off of hunches or phone calls. And every time you hear the city attorney or these sheriffs or any law enforcement that are supporting GVROs, they're always telling you of these really serious situations in which, we stopped a crime from happening, or we stopped someone from getting shot or hurting himself or someone else. Well, yeah, those are the ones that they want to publicize, and those are the ones that they want everyone to hear about when they hear about gun violence restraining orders. But it is so absurdly easy to abuse these things. I often tell people, I'll get a gun violence restraining order put on you with a phone call. I don't even have to know you. I just need to know your first and last name, know where you live, and make a phone call to the police saying you said something bad. And that's essentially all that you really need to put one of these orders in place, because when police go to a judge, and that's what happens when they're trying to get a gun violence restraining order, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to get a temporary GVRO, or a temporary emergency protective order. And all a police officer needs to do to get one of these things is they have to have a reasonable cause. They go up to a judge and they have to prove reasonable cause to why one of these temporary GVROs needs to be put into place. And if you're in the legal field, reasonable cause is nothing. It's less than nothing. It's the lowest standard. It is so easy to prove and get past that hurdle that it's a joke. So when someone says, "Oh, well, we have to prove reasonable cause in order to get one of these things," that's laughable when I hear something like that. Because if you can't prove reasonable cause, I don't even know what you're doing. You're bad at your job. And I've defended gun violence restraining orders a number of times. I've found that that's continuing to be a call that I get more and more often, week by week. In San Diego, like you said, there's been more gun violence restraining orders issued in San Diego than any other county in the state. And our city attorney and a lot of our law enforcement, they're promoting these things like they're saving people, but in reality, they're getting abused. And I can give you examples of how this stuff gets abused. I can't tell you how often I get a phone call because there's a divorce proceeding going on or two people splitting up, and it used to be restraining orders would be issued in a divorce case, but now it's used as a weapon. No matter what happens, no matter what the facts are, that's what happens.
Truly weaponized. They truly are saying, hey, I want to hurt this other person. I'm going to use this government policy to do it.
Exactly. And it's a known thing. And so all you got to do is, you have a spouse that makes a phone call and says, he made this threat or she made this threat. And you tell that to police. So now the police goes, all right, well, a threat's been made. This person owns a gun. We can confirm that because we have everything registered to us in California. So now I have a guy that owns guns. He made a threat to his spouse or his spouse made a threat to him. Well, let's just go tell the judge that. They tell the judge, I got a guy who owns guns and he made a threat.
Yeah, no brainer.
There you go.
Done.
I've never heard of a temporary gun violence restraining order getting denied, to be honest. But you have that done. And so what happens when you get these temporary GVROs is you get a knock on your door. You don't get a phone call. You don't get a notice by mail saying, hey, attend court to defend yourself. You get a knock on the door, and it's a bunch of police officers, and they hand you a piece of paper. They say, where are your guns? We're going to come and take them. And at that point, they come and take them. And it's legal for them to do so. They come in. If your guns are locked up in a safe, they're either going to get the necessary tools to open up that safe, or you're going to open it up for them. And then,
do you get a receipt?
You do get a receipt, but if we want to talk about getting guns back from law enforcement,
that's another show.
That's a whole nother show.
Good luck.
Okay.
But yeah, so you basically get a knock on your door. All your guns get taken. You have no idea what's going on, and then you're told that there'll be a hearing within 21 days. Now, there's two sides to that. One is you want the chance to defend yourself and be like, what's going on here? Why are my guns being taken? So you kind of want that quick hearing, but at the same time, people are caught unaware by these things. And a lot of people that get these GVROs have never had a criminal conviction in their life. They've never been in front of a judge. They've never, been arrested. They've never even spoken to law enforcement on a professional level. And so people panic. They don't really know what's going on. They get these weird court notices handed to them, and it has a date on it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I'll get a phone call. And they'll say, well, I got this weird, restraining order, 5150 gun violence thing put on me. And so I got to spend about 10 minutes trying to figure out what exactly they have. And I go, well, when's your hearing? Tomorrow, in 2 days. And it's tough because, at that point, it's really hard to get a good defense going, but we do what we can.
What, are you busy?
Well, yeah.
You are in California.
But, you can get hearings rescheduled and continued. But, these GVROs, it's not something that, we took your guns and next week you explained yourself and now you get your guns back, and we just hand them to you in the courtroom. None of that happens.
No.
These things, even if you're successful in defending them, and, my firm's been successful in defending every single one we've been involved in, it still takes months to get your stuff back. Even when the courts say, no, you're fine, they had no cause to issue one of these.
What are the consequences? If you get a gun violence restraining order against you, and what are the consequences as far as how much does an attorney cost typically? How much is this going to run them? $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, right?
Oh yeah, it all depends, but generally per hour basis, $250, $300 an hour for an attorney.
Yeah.
That's going to be probably your average. And so
20, 30 hours of work at least, right?
Yeah, it can very much range. And here's the big kicker. So you get a GVRO, and so you want to think, okay, this is a civil issue. I just got to defend this, one topic GVRO. Well, what happens when the police come in and they, confiscate your firearms, but it happens to be that one of your firearms is not compliant with California law, which I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of non-compliant firearms in California. People just have a hard time keeping up with the changing definition of what an assault weapon is and what handguns you can and can't have.
And don't forget the ghost guns.
Yeah, ghost guns, a whole new thing. God, I hate that word.
Another show.
I hate that word, yeah. So, police come in, they confiscate your guns. Well, now we've confiscated your guns and you've been successful defending this GVRO, but we have now criminal charges that we want to place against you. And these criminal charges sometimes are leveraged against, if you're trying to defend a GVRO, well, they say, well, we could charge you with all these criminal charges that can be felony convictions, or,
just let it go.
defend against this GVRO, and we'll get an issue this GVRO without any opposition. So there's all sorts of situations where it can get very complicated, very messy, and it can take a long time and a lot of money.
So it gives law enforcement a whole bunch more leverage, but there's really hasn't really been a case to be made that what you're trading off, giving them leverage, giving them more authority, lowering the standard for taking a firearm away. There's not a case that this is helping. Like they're not real. I mean, they could already take firearms away from people that were committing crimes, but now they can take firearms away from people who aren't committing crimes.
Exactly.
And there is no definitive like, hey, here's a case, or here's a dozen cases, or here's 100 cases where we really, really, no pun intended, dodged a bullet here. Like we really, really helped keep society safe.
Yeah.
So we've given them this gift of more authority, and we've received nothing to our advantage in return.
Yeah, I'll give you an example here of how this can be abused and just the absurdity of it. A client whose son was an adult who has some mental health issues, doesn't actually live at home, but because of COVID, they were kicked out of the care home he was in, and he had to stay at his parents' house. And so the father locked up his guns, had safe everything, but somehow this, adult, he's a 26-year-old man, stole one of the firearms one morning. He's having a bad morning. Before he stole the gun, though, the parents, they knew he was having a hard time, and they're like, we need to get some help. So they called the police and said, hey, we need to get him on a health check, and we need someone to come here, take care of him, because, he's kind of out of control. We can't do it. They never showed up. Then what happens a little while later, a couple hours later, he's stolen this gun. Luckily, it was unloaded, and he had a little altercation with the neighbors out in front. Well, magically, the PERT team and the officers appeared then, and they put him under 5150. But then they put the dad. They gave him a GVRO, and they confiscated all his firearms. And the thought was, well, you let him steal your firearm, so therefore you are unsafe with guns. And now we have to keep you from having firearms. And so we had to defend against that case, and luckily we succeeded. The judge was kind of shocked when she had to make the clarification. So the man in court today, he's done nothing wrong with the firearm, correct? Yes, Your Honor. Did he threaten anyone with a gun? No, Your Honor. Did he abuse gun law in any way, shape, or form? No, Your Honor. Someone stole his gun? Yes, Your Honor. Oh, and who was the one who called the police in the first place? He did, Your Honor. Who disarmed the person and took the gun away? He did, Your Honor. So why is he here? Well, he's just not safe with guns. So luckily that one was kind of laughed out of the courtroom. But this is just an easy example of how it can be abused. You have a situation where someone didn't even do anything. And we're not talking about even committing a crime, but literally was a victim of a crime. And
don't they get these directives from their subordinates?
Well, this is the thing. They're given the general parameters of how these gun violence restraining orders are issued, and they know here's in the real world, I can get them, and it's very easy to get them if I get annoyed by someone. If I want to search someone's house and I'm told to get a warrant.
We got to take a break, or you got to write a check. All right. Hey, we are so proud to partner with the National Concealed Carry Association as a 10-ring partner. NCCA exists to serve the Second Amendment community by providing a nationwide network of 24 2A advocates. They offer elite self-defense and concealed carry training from its nation's top instructor, and they provide a rock-bottom price on the very best selection of gear and accessories. Join them today. Members get great prices and free shipping. You can learn a whole lot more at nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com. All right, back to John Dillon. Okay, I'm not the smartest pencil in the box, like I mentioned earlier, but
that's true. I can confirm that.
Can you do that? Can I get a letter?
I second that motion.
Can I get a letter?
Oh, wait, there's more.
It looks like it's just they figured out another way to get guns taken away from Second Amendment gun carriers.
100%. That's what the purpose of these things are. It's to take guns, and the proof is in the pudding. So, let's say you get one of these temporary gun violence restraining orders, and you go to court and you win, right? So you've proved in the court, like, no, I'm not a danger to myself. They should not have come. They take my guns. So all that does is makes it to where a permanent GVRO doesn't get issued against you, so you're prohibited from anywhere from 1 to 5 years. So if you're right and you're successful at trial and defending yourself, they go, okay, sorry.
That's it.
And so now it's like, okay, well, you can go. You're told by the courts, okay, well, you can get your guns back. So now here comes the process of trying to get your guns back, which is going to be
A nightmare.
months long, a whole ordeal.
Aren't
and you're
they
going to
filed
have,
in my name someplace in a shelf?
Yeah. If your guns aren't registered to your name, they're not going to get returned to you. You got to get a law enforcement gun release application from the Department of Justice. You got to go through the gun desk. They have their own procedure. So it becomes this whole mess. And that's if you're right. So if you were successful in defending against this, you still have months-long issues, and you're going to have to pay up money, go through all these processes to get your guns back. It's not like they hand them to you back in the courtroom.
So make my night. They charge storage fees for my guns.
No, but if you don't pick them up within about 180 days, they'll destroy them.
Or sell them.
Yeah.
Trust me.
With the way
I got a
that
good story on
our
it.
California law enforcement tend to skirt the gun laws when it comes to operating
Mm-hmm.
FFLs without a license, it seems.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Wouldn't
doubt
doubt
that
it.
at all.
Hey, so what I was saying earlier in the segment earlier, don't you think that's fair criticism? Where I said, hey, these were intended to be red flag laws, which means the way they were sold to the voters, through the legislators who passed it, is that hey, these are supposed to be a preventative maintenance. They were never intended to be common practice. They were never intended to be the procedure. No matter what, they were intended to be issued. Without a lot of regularity, at least this is the way they was pitched.
Yeah.
And if and it was described, hey, if this person is an obvious future threat, we need a tool in order to stop this person. And a lot of people that resonated, whether or not, forget whether or not, trying to predict the future is even possible or constitutional or whatever, but that resonated. It was never intended to be, every time a gun is involved in a situation, you issue a gun violence restraining order.
And that's what it is now.
And that's what it is now.
Yeah.
And when we said, hey, we're worried that this thing's going to, be used in every single situation. Oh, no, you guys are silly. Take off the tinfoil hat. No, we were right again.
100%. And, it's just absolutely crazy how it's just shot up in the percentage of how many of these things have been issued over the last, 4 or 5 years. But like you said, when you hear about gun violence restraining orders or red flag laws, well, what do they always talk about? They talk about, mass shootings because they want to pull at the heartstrings because no one wants a mass shooting to ever happen. But if we just had these red flag laws, we would have been able to stop these mass shooters. Well, they're not going after mass shooters when they're issuing these 1,000 GVROs every year now in San Diego. It's just not the case. And so, yeah, they're going to try to appeal to the emotions, appeal to the topics that are going to get people flared up in order to push these forward. But in reality, how they're used is very different.
So, John, let me go back to something you mentioned a few minutes ago, talking about them coming and confiscating guns, say, that aren't registered to you or something. If you've got unfortunately, I'm not in this situation, but if you've got guns that have been in your family for generations, that you inherited a collection from your dad who got guns from his grandfather and that kind of thing, and there's no, I don't believe there's any real law in California that makes you have to go back and re-register those guns. So is that something that, again, if this happens, you'll lose all that stuff and you'll have to fight to get all that stuff back?
100%. So, and that's a big problem in, long guns, rifles, shotguns. They weren't registered to people until 2014 in California. Handguns back in, 90s, early 90s, mid 90s. So, there's a lot of people that inherited firearms from their, grandfather, father. It all completely legal. It's completely legal to have a, quote, unregistered firearm. But yeah, that's the problem you come into when these guns are confiscated. Law enforcement agencies in California will not return a gun to you unless it is registered to you. So you get into this very complicated situation where the guns aren't registered to you because you got them from your, dead grandfather. And now police refuse to to release them to you, even though they took them from you. They gave you a receipt for them showing, make, model, serial number, everything. And their excuse is, well, how do we know you're really the owner? So you took it from me. There's pictures of you taking it from me. I have a invoice from you guys saying you took it from me. Give them back. And it's this make-believe situation where like, well, we can't
But you
prove
don't
they're
have any
yours.
paperwork from your grandfather.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a process. You have to go get them registered. But a lot of times people don't just have the make, model, serial number written down handy that they can then go and register
Because they've taken all the guns away.
Yeah. So unless you have the gun to actually reference firsthand, you don't just have the information written down, and so it becomes a problem. And it's costly, and I've seen people lose some valuable heirlooms through processes like this. It's pretty tough.
And we were talking a little bit earlier too about close. They always talk about close family members filing these things, or areas of domestic abuse or divorces or something. But pretty much anybody can do that. It can be a colleague, could be an old roommate, could be a neighbor, it could be pretty much anybody. Is that correct?
Again, very correct. So one thing I've noticed is...
Yeah, like if you interrupt me one more time, I'm going to make a phone call and the semi's coming to your house.
Yeah, exactly. You'll need two.
I was going to say. I was being nice.
So basically what I've seen in practice is, they always like to say, well, only, your husband or your wife or a close family member could get one of these against you. Well, the thing is anyone can get one. It's just... that part of the regulation, it only regulates who's going into court to get that temporary restraining order. So if I'm not one of those listed close family members, all I got to do is call the police, and then the police go and get the temporary restraining order. So there's literally no obstruction or no hurdle that has to be overcome just because you're like the crazy neighbor or something like that. All it takes is a phone call to the police, and then they come in. It's I think they're incredibly dangerous.
Where's the
on many different
breaking
levels.
point? Where's the breaking point? Because the public, one of the problems is the public doesn't know this is going on.
Yeah.
Unless they're listening to this show.
Most people don't know what's going on until they get a
Until they get
GVRO
one.
put it on them.
So consequently, how far are they going to push it to where they have more guns than we have?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's kind of a stupid question. They're going to keep pushing no matter what. That's
because they're not going to have any kickback.
It's the fallacy. Everyone talks, casually about this slippery slope thing when it comes to gun control. But if you ever ask someone who's pro gun control, okay, at what point will you no longer need any more gun laws?
Right.
There's never a point.
No.
There will always be another need for it.
And we're going to cure cancer along with it.
And I'll tell you this, I posted a little bit about this last week, but we got a new bill in California, the SB 906, which is requiring people to disclose how they store their firearms to schools. You think you combine the fact that I'm going to have a school that has what guns I own, where I own them, how I store them, who has access to them on a sheet of paper in the school's file system. Combine that with a GVRO or a 5150 health and welfare check system where all I need is phone call. That's all this is just it's creating a larger snowball for rampant abuse because they want to make lists. They can't officially make these bad guy lists, so they do it in every other way they can.
It feels like they've run out of dumb ideas. It feels like they've implemented so many things or been struck down in court on so many things that they're coming up with. Like the proposals are getting more and more harebrained.
Well, didn't they come out with a new one, the new gun registry? A gun register where they're going to give the gun register. I mean, you'll have access to it.
Oh, so. They have taken, and there's actually a lawsuit on this now.
Yeah.
But basically, where they're giving private ownership information to gun violence reserch centers,
that's it,
which is another
Did
name
you hear that
for
one, Mike?
a bunch of people that want to just take your guns.
We're plaintiffs in that lawsuit. If you're a member of San Diego County Gun Owners, you're a plaintiff in a lawsuit against that.
Yeah, we talked about it a week or so ago with Morgan, all right?
With Morgan, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing, too, with these gun violence restraining, just another bad aspect of this is how does that affect concealed carriers? If you're a concealed carrier and that happens to you.
There's another
say goodbye
show.
to that CCW. I mean, if you're put on a temporary restraining order, remember, temporary restraining order is reasonable cost, lowest standard there is in law. So even if you get a temporary restraining order, there goes your CCW. You think, the sheriff's office is going to be like, well, let's wait to find out and see if it turns into a permanent GVRO. If it's permanent, then we'll take the CCW away. Now, as soon as that's issued, you get a letter in the mail saying goodbye. And, even if you are successful in defending it, that's on your record. They're gonna know that happened when they do the background check. So good luck applying again.
Faster than a tax
Oh, yeah, it's
refund
gone.
check.
Yeah, no, there's no chance. I could rant and rave about all the problems of these things
Do it.
for many,
Yeah.
many,
Oh, come on.
many,
He needs
many
some help. He
episodes.
can't. You know, he's.
No, but when Michael's talking to this sheriff candidate and how he's so pro this, well, it's like, of course you are. You're a law enforcement guy who just wants to enter people's homes and take their guns. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Let's just be real. And
You
I
could
have
care
to
less
say,
about the general public.
Yeah, generally speaking, the Democrats are speeding off a cliff. The Republicans are just going the speed limit in the same direction. So,
That was a terrible analogy.
that's a perfect analogy.
It really is. I'm writing it down.
That was a great analogy.
Hey, we live in a state where your self-defense rights are under attack. Let us be your voice and help defend and restore the Second Amendment. Help spread the word about the fight. Go to the website. Subscribe to our newsletter. Our content is suppressed on the major social media platforms, so we're not guaranteed to be able to keep our audience. And if we shut down, joining our newsletter allows you to stay in contact with us. So go to gunownersradio.com and click on the join the Gun Owners Radio newsletter button. Prize winners are picked every single week.
Every week?
That's what it says right here. Every week.
I still haven't won.
You haven't won?
Fair.
Neither have I.
I've never won a raffle
Is there-
either at
I was-
any of our events.
I did.
What?
I did.
It's
That's
a
not tr-
rigged system, everyone.
That is not true.
Listen to
You won the frangible.
That was an auction?
Close enough.
No,
No,
I've never won a raffle.
But you won where you're at right now. You got the co-host win to come in and co-host with us.
Yeah.
You won it.
I didn't win any.
Auctions don't count. Raffles
God.
do count.
Some-
Auctions don't.
Yeah,
Somebody
auctions
get this
don't
guy a
count.
lolly or
They
something.
do not
Jeez.
count, right?
Get him a
Never won any
Snickers.
What?
guns
The
or
one
gun
time
parts.
we want him to come on air, we can never get him on. Now he's on. We can't get him off.
I know.
Everyone else wins guns.
Who
I
brought
never win guns.
Who brought
I want a
Betty
gun.
White in today? That's what I want.
Ooh, Betty White. Did you
Talk
hear
about that. What did talk about before we go into Sam's segment? Talk about what you won at the auction.
Yeah, so I won the NFT recoil auction. And actually, I won 2 auctions on that sense. But basically,
now the
at
truth
the
comes
San Diego
out.
County Gunner Second Amendment dinner, there was a framed jersey, Second Amendment jersey with the rainbow flag signed by
Chris Chang.
Chris Chang, and he was he's LGBT advocate and firearms advocate. He's the winner of Top Shot.
Yeah.
Guy can shoot crazy good. Awesome guy too. And so he was put on the cover of Recoil magazine. They turned that into an NFT, those non-fungible tokens for all those young kids out
I
there.
have no
you know.
idea what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you were gone.
Something about a sponge. I don't know. It's
So what do you actually? So you won it and you had the opportunity. It was all great. What do you actually have?
So, all right. So it's basically, I always tell people this, it's like a digital playing card or digital baseball card, right?
it's not a shirt.
Well, I got a signed shirt
Oh.
too. That's hanging in my office. But I also got this digital baseball card of the Recoil magazine cover, and the NFT auction. I won an additional auction. So by winning all these things, I get to go to a shooting event. Yes.
We
You
get-
want to be my extra?
I
I've
do.
been looking, so you can
Seriously,
definitely come.
if you got a +1.
I do have a +1.
I'm
Thank
in.
you to the auction that I won at the event. So you're my
Wasn't there
+1.
something illegal about this?
No, sir.
Okay, I just checked.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so
I,
we
know
I
a
already,
lawyer.
I already talked to my lawyer about it. All right, so that means so it's it keeps coming back to the digital playing card. That's what that's the
Yeah,
description.
and it's one of those things. I think the value of them comes from the fact that it's the built-in certificate of authenticity, and ownership. I came from a family, we collected baseball memorabilia. I'd go to national card shows. I get autographs from players. I got a pretty big collection. So the big thing is always having these certificate of authenticity if you ever want to sell it or get rid of it. And sometimes that's hard to get, especially if you get a baseball signed by someone yourself and you didn't buy it through anything. There's no, you didn't ask the player to, hey, can you also sign this certificate? These NFTs, they kind of have that built into the system. So I believe I have the serial number 4 of these
Nice.
10 NFTs for it. And So because of that, I'm the proud owner of that. I think I bought one other NFT accidentally because I was trying to figure out how to do it.
Accidentally.
Yeah.
I think I paid a little too much for it. I have no idea what it is.
So did
Yeah.
your other one increase in value? Because they say they just increase in value.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly,
all right.
You haven't
I don't
got
even know
that
what I
far
bought.
yet.
All right, we got a question we got to ask here.
Yeah.
Every week we do a segment called Stump My Nephew. Almost every week.
Let's ask John.
If you, we should try to stump John. If you send in a question and we use it on the air, you get a hat or a shirt. If you stump my nephew with that question, you get a special prize. Very, very special prize. But it's extremely hard to stump my nephew because he's a gun trivia stud. Phil, you ever hear this segment? Have you heard this yet?
No, I haven't heard this.
Okay, so my nephew, he's 20. How old are you, Sam?
22.
22 years old.
Okay.
We started doing this when he was like 19, right? Were you 19?
Yep.
Started doing this when he's 19. And I don't. We lost track of his record, but it's extremely difficult to stump him. He doesn't get the questions prior, so he doesn't have an opportunity to study. This is going to be the first time he's heard this question. Let's see how he does. All right, listen, man. Impress Phil, okay? Guy was in the Marine Corps. He's a firearms instructor. You know, he doesn't need. You got to go big on this one. All right.
I'll see what I can do for you.
Excellent. All right, Action Jackson, you're on. Go ahead. What's the question, buddy? Oh.
Dan from Rancho Cucamonga asks, where did the British Sten gun get its name?
Was that Dan who wrote in?
Yeah.
Thanks very much for writing in. So did you ask Sten or Bren?
Good question. Sten, S-T-E-N.
Okay, thank you. So those two firearms have very similar names. They were in service around the same time period, and they actually get their names in a similar way. Sten is short for Sterling Enfield because it was designed and produced in collaboration between the Sterling factory and the Royal Small Arms factory at Enfield.
Why do you know that? Okay, so the Sten gun was named after its designers, Major General Reginald Shepard and Harold Turpin, and the location Enfield, where the Royal Small Arms factory was located. Hence, Sten, S-T-E-N.
Okay, so I got it kind of half right.
I thought that was right. What half did you get wrong?
I said Sterling.
That's close enough. Correct. Yeah, come on. I didn't even after reading it, I didn't recognize. No, I didn't realize it was. It stood for something. I've never seen it spelled, all caps with, it's usually just one word. I didn't realize it stood for something.
Yep, it is an acronym. RSAF Enfield has their name attached to a number of different British military arms.
What can you tell us about the Sten gun? What is the British Sten gun?
Most of you have probably seen it in photographs or in film. It was used in the Second World War. It was developed during the Second World War to be as inexpensive as possible to produce. It is a 9mm submachine gun feeding from box magazines that insert from the side, and it looks basically like a metal pipe with a couple other metal pipes sticking out of it and a box magazine on one side, because that's pretty much what it is.
Well, that's the distinctive part of the Sten gun is the magazine comes out the side, right?
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Was it intended to be a handle, or that's just how it was designed? Do you have any insight as to why it was sticking out like that?
I can't speak to the Sten specifically, but as far as I'm aware, most firearms that have a side-mounted magazine are designed in that way to allow the person firing it to go prone more easily. You see that on a lot of older light machine guns, and you see that on the Sten. You'll see either a top-mounted or a side-mounted magazine on some of those weapons, because if you're in a low prone, or in the case of a light machine gun, if you're firing it from a bipod, a magazine sticking out the bottom will get in your way.
That makes total sense. I didn't know that. Anybody here know that?
Oh, I did.
John, you're a
He's over
gun.
there shaking his head.
You're a gun nerd, right? Yeah. I mean, you know a lot about guns.
Yeah.
Did you know any of this?
I knew the general theory of the magazines being stuck on the side.
I didn't know that.
instead
I'd
of
never heard that.
underneath.
Very
Yeah.
intelligent.
But I did not know the origin of the name Sten. My fun fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to flip open that ejection port to make the Sten go pew. Pretty sure.
I don't know. You know anything? Is that Sam? Can you confirm or deny that?
I'm not super familiar with the Sten. I know that is a feature with the US M3, which is kind of similar in design, but I can't speak to the Sten specifically.
Is the Sten is that the one that's also nicknamed, or that might have been the American? It was a real similar stamp one. Is it also called the grease gun, or is that the American?
That was the M3.
The M3 was the grease gun. They look similar.
I love that gun. That
They
was
look
the one I
similar.
had in the Army.
The grease gun?
Yeah.
They let you have a gun?
Yeah, I know it, with bullets.
Ooh, wow.
I love that gun. I wish I'd have stolen one.
You still have all your toes, right?
I do. Good
Okay.
point.
Making sure.
Geez, you're talking about my favorite gun.
A Dave violence restraining order. That's what
Yeah,
we need.
right.
All right, well that's cool, man. Good job, Sam. That's awesome.
As always.
Yeah, why do you know that? What do you remember why you came across this knowledge?
Couldn't tell you.
All right.
Hey,
Well, let me
Sam,
ask you, do you like the gun?
I haven't had the chance to handle one, much less fire one.
I can tell you. When
Dave,
you,
we're in California. Are you kidding?
I know.
Well,
But when you-
he's actually in Virginia. He's
yeah,
back
he
in
can
free
do
America.
it. But when you fire that gun, it floats. It literally floats. You just have to pull a little bit down, but it is as solid as a rock. It's a very slow shooter, but it floats.
What, the
The M3.
M3? No.
It's the weirdest thing in the world.
Hey, Sam, before you go, just a real quick question here. You're usually skeptical about some of these locations. Do you really believe we have a community out here called Rancho Cucamonga?
At this point, I'll believe anything in the way of place names out there.
We do.
I mean, every part of the world, especially every part of the United States, has its weird place names. So for every Rancho Cucamonga or whatever it is you said, we have Aquia Harbor, Tappahannock,
Spotsylvania.
places like that.
Yeah. See what you started?
Yeah, because Sam usually questions some of those,
I
and
know.
he's questioned some
He
less
has
weird
questioned a
ones,
few.
That was
All
real.
right, buddy, you're the best. All right,
Thank you very much
folks.
for having me on, as always.
Subscribe to our show on YouTube, and when you watch the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And please support our local sponsors, San Diego County Gun Owners, U.S. Law Shield, Dilla Law Group, PRMI Mortgage, Scott Vincent and Coldwell Banking, Royalty Realty, Sage Tree Web Development, National Concealed Carry Association, Seal One, the American Shooters in El Cajon, and Joe Germisi, Michael Schwartz, Sam the Gunman, and Action Jackson, and last but not least, Brendan Thomas, Logano 1. He is a happy boy. Woo-hoo. But don't go anywhere. Bob Siegel's coming right up. This is Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The answer.